Hello everyone, hello. Good to see you all here. Yes, it's kind of a chilly day, so I am... Oh, leave that a little bit open. Kind of a chilly day, so I'm wearing kind of a long sleeve shirt today. No sandwiches today. I just didn't feel like it. Honestly, I just didn't feel like it. I don't have any more cucumber. I don't have any more any of the other stuff I usually make sandwiches with anyway. So I thought, well, maybe I'll be creative and make like kind of like a chutney or something. And I was just like, I just don't feel like it. I just don't feel like it. So no sandwiches today. We do have the Scottish shortbread and the McVitie's digestives. Although this is the bottom of the bottom of the package, so they're all crushed. They're all crushed, just destroyed. So, yeah. But that's okay. That's okay. We'll make do with what we got. Let me go to my channel comments and say hello to everybody. Lower that. Who do we got today? We got Mike. We got Keith. Hello, you guys. Hello, Tyler. Hello, Mark. Mark says the string quartet is playing in the Queen's room. I have ordered my Earl Grey and scones. Awesome. Yeah, today is Earl Grey for me as well, which I'm excited about. Still pretty hot. Let's see. Tyler says, been binge watching ships. Awesome. Does Queen Mary 2 have a smoking room like Queen Mary? Actually, yeah. They have a room called Winston's Smoking Lounge or something like that. Something along the lines of Winston Churchill and then Smoking Lounge. However combination they put that. But yes, it's a small room. Probably no larger than my studio. Lots of comfy leather back chairs and stuff like that, and yeah, Winston Cigar Lounge, I think it's called. Yeah, so they have something like that, but it's very small because very people really smoke. So let's see. Carl, hello Carl. Mr. Misty, how's it going? It's good to see you too, Mark. Hello, ScanFan Ed. I'm doing good, Tyler. How are you? Frankie says, no sandwiches, but the rest of the treats look good. Yes, they do. I think when I do my next grocery order, I'm going to try to get some ingredients for, well, cucumber sandwiches, of course, but I want to try a different sandwich. I'm going to try doing kind of like a sweet and savory combination. So I'm going to experiment a little bit with a new sandwich, but because I've looked at a lot of recipes for classic tea sandwiches. And aside from the egg sandwich, aside from the cucumber sandwich, none of them, well, and the salmon lock sandwich. So the smoked salmon with the cream cheese spread, that looks pretty good. But the rest don't really look that good to me. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll create one of my own and see how that goes. So that way, whenever I'm not doing cucumber sandwiches, I can try something else. Hello, Thomas. Keith says, hey, Alex, will you be doing another live on the railroad game? They're good entertainment. Yeah, I think I will. And I think when I do, it will be on this channel, though. Because the second channel, I had so many high hopes for it. But the problem is I just don't have the time to devote to that channel. And while I could randomly upload content to it, the channel won't grow. So I'd rather have people watch my videos. Because sometimes I do those live streams and I only have 3 people watching. And it's not that nobody's interested, it's that everybody who knows about me is on this channel, not the other one. So it's hard to get people to move over to a second channel. So I think since I don't do it that often, I might as well just do all that stuff that I was going to do on the other channel on here. So tonight, in fact, we're going to be playing the enlisted game. So unless my friends suddenly decide to do Railroads Online. I know Wednesday they're going to do a massive update to Railroads Online, so maybe I'll live stream that on Wednesday. I don't know. Christian, how's it going? Tyler says, I saw your vlog, and I think it's an honor to see you at the beginning of your Queen Mary journey. Oh, thanks. Oh, yeah, I forgot that because you're a channel member, you get to see that vlog. I was like, I thought I put that vlog for members only, but I forgot you're a channel member. Yeah, so I did post that vlog, and the thing though is, like, as you can tell since you watched it, it's very inaccurate because at the time I was new essentially to ocean liners, especially Queen Mary. So I knew virtually nothing about it. I did some research the night before we went there because I'd been going to the Queen Mary a few times throughout my life, but always just as a casual tourist, not as an ocean liner enthusiast. So I knew virtually nothing about it, and I did some research the night before, which got me really interested in the ship, and then I wanted to share that with everybody on my channel, since everybody at the time was just Disney fans. They weren't ocean liner fans back then. So, oh, I don't need to do that. So in doing that, there was a lot of inaccurate information on that video, but I didn't know it was inaccurate at the time. I thought that was like the real information. But as you can tell, I have gotten much better over time. All it takes really, is just not just research, but having people there who can help you, who can answer your questions. I see so many people online who, I think my friend calls it gatekeeping. It's where like, for instance, you're an ocean liner enthusiast, and somebody new comes into the game and they want to share their enthusiasm and their excitement with ocean liners, but then the gatekeepers are there who are the longtime ocean liner fans, and they go, no, you don't know anything. You can't talk. You can't share anything about these ships. You don't know anything about it. And I think that's horrible. I think that's a horrible way to treat people, because there's a lot of things like that in life. Like, me and a friend once owned a cafe. I was the chef. He was the coffee and tea guy. He knew all about that stuff, and he also managed most of the finances of the company. But so we owned this cafe together, and one thing we both agreed about was we wanted to serve high quality items, stuff that you would expect to get from just like a modern, like trendy kind of place. But the difference was that we had been to a lot of those kinds of places ourselves. We knew it in and out. From a food perspective, I'd been to a lot of trendy little restaurants and things that serve like all these fancy stuff. People call it like hipster food and stuff like that. The food can be really good, but the problem is that those places can be really what's the word? I can't think of the word at the moment, but they can be kind of hoity-toity, like if you don't know what you're ordering, the person taking your order will look at you like you're an idiot. And it's really pretentious. There we go. Pretentious is the word I'm looking for. And so there's a lot of places like that, especially when you go to those modern coffee shops that serve single origin coffees and stuff. You go there, and if you're a person that just loves to get lattes, sometimes they'll look at you weird, because they'll be like, oh, you don't want a single origin coffee? You don't want to try it the way that it should be tried? And it's just like, you shouldn't treat people like that. Sometimes people just like certain things. Sometimes they don't want a cup of black coffee. Sometimes they want to have a latte, and if it's Halloween season, maybe you should make one that has pumpkin. And if you're going to do it fancy, then do it fancy, but be nice about it, like don't put people down. So when we created our cafe, we didn't want to be pretentious. We wanted to serve people like good quality stuff. And if they didn't know what that stuff was, if they, like, you know, like my cousin called it foo-foo coffee. But he loved it. He always came by because we never treated anybody bad for not knowing, like, oh, this is a coffee from Ethiopia, you know, the Harar region or whatever it is. I forget what it is. But yeah, so it's just like, we didn't treat people like that. So people would come in, people who've never tried that kind of coffee before, people who are like Starbucks people at heart, who would come in and be like, oh, wow, I've never heard of, you know, of like Ethiopian Yirgacheffe or something. And then they'd be like, well, what is that? And so we'd be like, oh, yeah, so it tastes like this and blah, blah, blah. And if you can try it. If you don't like it, we'll replace it with a different coffee that you really want. And so people were like willing to try new stuff because we weren't sitting there going, wow, you don't know anything about coffee, you know, like. So that's the thing, is when it comes to ocean liners enthusiasts, they can be the same way. You come into the ocean liner community and you get welcomed by a lot of people, but then there's also the people who are like, well, you don't know anything about ocean liners, so you probably shouldn't be talking. And it's like, okay, well, you know, then teach me something. Don't just try to push me out the door. Teach me something, you know. And that's how I approach everything. Is show your enthusiasm, show that you want to learn, and that's what I do. So, yeah. I don't know what we were originally talking about. I just kind of went off on a tangent. Let's see. One more minute on that tea. Let's see. Sorry, I'm going to scroll back up to where I left off. Mr. Misty says, I'm a Disney fan and an ocean liner fan. Awesome. Yeah, I love both. Mike says, how come Queen Mary looks like Titanic 3? That movie was terrible. You know, it's because they used Queen Mary to film Titanic 3. Grim Toon says, can they just sell the lifeboats to private owners? Yes, they could, but they won't. So there is something kind of going on about those lifeboats recently. You know, the city has been telling the press that, oh, well, you know, the lead paint on the lifeboats is what's making it impossible to give them away. Because they were giving them away for free, technically. As long as you were a qualified museum or restoration person, then technically you could own one of those lifeboats if you showed how you were going to refurbish it, where it was going to be stored, what condition. If you put together like a whole proposition, they would have technically given you a lifeboat. And so they told the press, oh, there were only two bidders, and neither of them were qualified. That's not the full story. There was 8 bidders originally. It came down to 2 because of what happened, but there were 8 bidders, and the reason why those last 2 bidders, one of them being QMI, were not given lifeboats wasn't because the bidders weren't interested because of the lead. The reason why was because it takes a long time for museums and nonprofits to acquire artifacts. They're not like a big corporation which often has money in the bank. A lot of these museums and places, they rely on donations to keep running. So they don't usually have a big surplus of money in the bank. It does cost money to transport these lifeboats. Even though they're being given away for free, you have to get permits and things to get them across the oceans, across land, and stuff like that. They are really wide, so they don't fit on traditional roads in any country. You do have to get like wide load permits and stuff, and the cost of which, driving them across land or taking them across the ocean, costs a lot of money. So these museums haven't had enough time to pull together the funding to create a plan, not just for acquiring the boat, but also for refurbishing it. And they haven't had the time to really decide where the boat will go. They have to make room in their museums. That sometimes costs money depending on how permanent your exhibits are. You may have to spend money to move those exhibits around to fit a boat of that size. So there is a lot of money involved. And so it takes anywhere from 6 months to a year to even a couple of years for most museums to be able to acquire stuff like that, something of that size, take it on and actually like refurbish it. The city originally wasn't going to give them away. They were just going to throw them away. QMI came in and said, hey, if you're going to throw them away, try to give them away for free. Don't let them go into the trash. The city, thankfully, had obliged, and they put together the bid process. The bid process was only 30 days. You had to have all that stuff worked out. All those things I mentioned that take sometimes a couple of years to put together had to be done in 30 days. And so QMI once again came in and said, can you give us an extension? Can you give everyone an extension? Because there's not enough time. When QMI contacted the city, they thought that that the city knew that we were asking for several months of an extension. They granted 30 extra days. So again, 60 days total for anybody to get lifeboats. We had museums contacting us and saying, yeah, we're interested in getting a lifeboat, but the city is dreaming if they think we can get it here in 60 days. It's not possible, So we were trying to do all we could. We offered the city, hey, we can try to find a place to store all 20 of these lifeboats, so that way these museums have more time. So, because we knew that time was of the essence for the city for some reason. They were in such a hurry to get rid of them, even though they don't plan to open the ship until at least Halloween, if not longer than that. So they were in such a hurry to get them out of there. And we thought, well, if the city can't store them anywhere themselves, we'll offer to find storage for them. We had people offering kinds of things. People who were like, oh, I have land. Someone else who was like, oh, I have a truck company. That kind of stuff. And we were getting all that stuff together. But they just kept going. The city just steamed forward with the disposal plan. Just steamed forward with it. They didn't even care. So now the boats are being thrown away. And... I need to prepare my tea. So the boats are being thrown away, and we're kind of like, okay, well, if you're going to throw them away, at least let us go over there. We have qualified people. We can remove the most essential hardware off of each of the lifeboats. So that way that hardware can get restored. And in the future, we can either make an exhibit with them and put it on the Queen Mary, or we can take that hardware and put it on replica lifeboats in the future. So at least those replicas have, the stuff. Because despite what everybody thinks, there are no replica lifeboats on the Queen Mary. Those were all originals from somewhere. So about, I want to say about 14, 15 of them are original to the Queen Mary, and the rest are from other ships like Queen Elizabeth and Sylvania. They are real original lifeboats. There's one that is a spare lifeboat that was sitting around Long Beach, but from my understanding, though it is made of fiberglass, it's not a replica, it's a spare boat. That's my understanding of it. So, we did what we could, and we're going to accept that, we can't save the lifeboats, but we can try to save the hardware. But the thing is that the city, they receive our emails, they receive our calls, we go to, to City Hall and stuff on occasion to plead our case. They receive all that stuff and they acknowledge it and say, thank you. And then they go silent. So that's why we need the help of the public. If the lifeboats, if we can't save them, okay, then we can't save them. All right, we did our best. But we can still try to save the hardware. Funny thing is that we have photographs that were taken just a few days ago of that area. The hardware is missing from the lifeboats. Not all of it. The propellers, I mean. The propellers are missing from the lifeboats. Someone took them off. We don't know where they're going. The city hasn't said, oh, we're preserving the propellers for a future exhibit. Nothing. They didn't say anything. We don't even know if maybe whatever company was hired to dispose of the lifeboats cut those propellers off themselves to keep. That's not good. Those things should be documented, So it's tragic, all that's happening. And all the while, you know, QMI is the company that's out there going, you know, hey, let's just try to keep track of all this stuff. Let's try to make sure that if stuff's going to be thrown away, at least it's documented, recorded, at least. So we're out there doing all this work, but then there's people out there who are like, who are not involved. They're just people, just random Ocean Liner fans who are just like, no, you know, we're going to point all the blame at QMI. For what reason? We're the only ones that are actually trying to do something, you know? But yeah, it's just weird. It's weird. Alright, go back up to the comments. Hey Steve, how's it going? Lucrezia says, hi, my birthday is this Saturday. Awesome, happy birthday. Let's see. Hello, Evan Scott. Mr. Missy says, I've always been in the mindset of educating people who are interested in my hobbies without scolding them for what they don't know. Everyone starts out knowing nothing. Exactly. Everyone starts out knowing nothing. Let's see. Oh, Steve says they used Queen Mary to film SOS Titanic as well. Oh, that's cool. Well, I'm not the movie cool, but it's cool that they use the ship for all these different movies and stuff. Okay. Let's see. Carl says, hi Alex, about halfway into the Lost Place Stern Edition. Not against removing docking machinery as long as it stays with the ship. I see a small stage for small acoustic show. Really not into the pool idea. Yeah. Hello, Ivan. How's it going? Grimtune says, would they let the average Joe have one of the lifeboats if they can prove that they can store one of them and have the money to buy one? No, it's unfortunately too late. The city has considered the matter closed. So we put out information for the 2 months that the bid was going on. Anybody who was interested, we told them just try to get a lifeboat. And there were a few people who did, who tried. But the city doesn't consider anyone good enough to take care of the lifeboats. That's the problem. So that's the funny thing. Like, they were going to throw them away. You'd think that at the very least, someone who has experienced restoring stuff would be better than nothing. But it seems the city doesn't want people to have the lifeboats at all. So, like I said, we at QMI, we had a plan put together for at least getting one lifeboat and finding a place to store it and and preserve it, or even give it to someone who could restore it and preserve it. We have qualified people on the team who can restore those lifeboats, but yet the city didn't consider us qualified. A little bit fishy, I think. Yeah, Wade, you're right. There is a lack of respect for history. Dangerous Brian says, do you wish White Star Line had done to Olympic what Cunard did with Queen Mary? Or are you happy that Olympic got scrapped? White Star Line and Cunard did the exact same thing. They put their ships up for auction. So it's okay. Let me describe a little bit about like what happens to the end of an ocean liner. When they reach the end of their operating service life, the amount of time that the company wants to keep it, they usually put them up for auction. They don't really care who bids for this ship. But most of the time, like 9 times out of 10, the bidder is like a scrap company. So that's just traditionally what happens. A scrap company bids on it. So when they put Olympic up for bid, technically a billionaire or a millionaire, I think only millionaires existed back then, technically a millionaire could have put up a bid for Olympic. So no one would have stopped them from that. It's just a bid. You know, it could go anywhere. Cunard did the same thing. They didn't just immediately say, hey, you know, people in cities around the world, try to buy the Queen Mary. That's not what they did. They just said, here's the Queen Mary up for bid. Everybody have at it. And that's exactly what they did to Olympic. So it wasn't Cunard that saved Queen Mary. They were just selling it off. They expected scrap companies to buy it. They didn't expect the city of Long Beach to buy it. When they heard that the city of Long Beach was going to buy it, that's when they had their little stipulation. They said, okay, you can buy it, but you can't operate it as a passenger ship that will compete with our company. So, and that was easy to, you know, to oblige. Wade says, I wish I could sue the city and get an injunction to stop the inappropriate disposal of the lifeboats. The propellers were removed to be scrapped. I don't think the propellers were removed to be scrapped, to be totally honest. Because the boats have to be transported to the scrapping place. So the boats are covered in lead, or so they say. They can't scrap them right there, because there are laws against that. They can't scrap the boats right there in the parking lot. The boats have to be transported whole to the scrapyard. This is where the shadiness comes in. Somebody went in there and removed those propellers themselves, not the transporting company, because the scrapping company, they don't come pick it up. This is a truck that is from the city. It's a city truck. They hired it or whatever, but somebody who is not part of the scrapping company came in and cut off those propellers. I have a feeling that it might be somebody either within the city or within control of the Queen Mary of some kind of management role or something. So somebody took those propellers, and I believe they did it for collecting purposes. I don't think that they were scrappers or preservationists. I think somebody did it for collection purposes. And I don't think that they plan to share that collection with the ship. That's all I can really say about it. I don't know who it was. I can't say for certain, but I mean, you know, when you use deductive reasoning, that's what it comes down to. Mr. Misty says, was the Peabody Essex Museum one of the interested bidders? I sent them info, but never heard back from them. They have an original wood model of the Queen Elizabeth in their collection. I don't think that... Yeah, well, I can't say who the other bidder is because we can't reveal who they are unless they reveal themselves. But I can tell you the Peabody Essex Museum wasn't one of them. Tyler says, if someone were to expose Long Beach for the corruption, how much damage would be done to its reputation? And what would become of Queen Mary? To be honest, cities don't rely on reputation the way that companies or celebrities do. If the city was found to be corrupt, people would just shrug and go, okay, so it's another corrupt city, you know? People are already shrugging, you know? Like, people are already like, oh, everybody knows California is corrupt. That's what everybody says. So, it doesn't surprise anybody. As for what could become of Queen Mary if they were exposed, I think better things. I think if they were exposed for some kind of corruption, I think that they would be forced to do right. You know, you can't, once you're caught, you can't keep, you know, doing corruption. Well, I mean, you can, but but you're more likely to just, you know, do right. Oh, Steve says, hey, Alex, Robert Garcia and Tom Odica have read the email that was sent. Yeah, so folks, for those you don't know, the person who wrote this, Blue Ribbon Productions, is Stephen Oblonsi, board member of QMI, Restore the Queen. He's on my live streams. He is the one that typed up the email, the official email from QMI to request that the city allow us to remove the hardware from the lifeboats so we can restore them and put them on display on the ship or onto future replica lifeboats if the city allows us to fund that. So he wrote that whole thing up. He typed it up, sent it to them. You know, for those of you who want to know, yes, we do call the city. We do go to City Hall, that kind of thing. We do that all the time. That happens all the time. There's literally footage of us online at the City Hall meetings talking to, you know, well, especially Steven. He's there at the City Hall meetings sometimes, and he goes there and discusses Queen Mary and stuff and tries to plead the case and stuff. So yeah, we don't just email. And we have spoken to the city. It's been on calls before. So yeah. So we do have correspondence with the city. The problem is that essentially, as far as the conversation goes, the city just says, thank you. And then they go silent afterwards. They don't say, yes, well, we can use your help. They don't say, no, we don't need your help. They don't say either one. They just say, thank you. And then they don't call back. That's what happens. You know, our whole team works hard. You know, it's funny, like, some people say, like, oh, we don't do anything. It's like, well, why don't you ask us? Why don't you ask, like, what do we do behind the scenes? What have we been doing? Ask us. We'll tell you. So there are a lot of people, like, there was a comment last night. This person was so disgruntled, and I was just like, you know, instead of accusing us of a bunch of things, why don't you ask us? Why don't you ask us what we've been doing? Why don't you ask us our involvement with the Queen Mary and how we've been doing stuff and what's been happening? You know, we'll tell you. We're transparent people. We talk about it all the time. You know, so it's just like, you know, we have the documentation and stuff to prove that we do work. We do try to save the Queen Mary every single day. Every single day we come up with plans and ideas. But always we get silenced. The cold shoulder from City Hall. Let's see. Hello, Jedi Mar. Kiara says, what did the lounge look like on Lusitania? I would show you a picture, but it's all on my computer, and I'm 20 feet away from my computer. I can't show you. Hello, Iron. Let's see. Wade says, let's put some air tags on those lifeboats and try to get them back when the city trashes them. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, Justin, you're right. They might as well keep the lifeboats. I mean, you know, like we said, like well, you know, if the city would let us, We would find a place to store those lifeboats. We would find someone who can help. All that stuff. We could find funding, you know. The thing is that a lot of people treat the Queen Mary situation as, well, you know, it has to be this way. That's the thing. It doesn't have to be that way. Someone posted on Facebook. They said, well, you know, eventually the lifeboats would have had to go. And I'm like, no. Not eventually. No. I mean, it didn't have to be like that. We were offering to fund the restoration of the boats. We could have funded that. We could have given them the money. We could have found them the people who would have done the restoration if they wanted us to find the people. We could have helped if they let us. And the thing is that, like, we don't want anything out of it. All we want to see the ship doing well. We want to see it restored. We want to see people going to it and experiencing it and learning stuff. We don't get any financial gain out of seeing the ship successful or seeing it, you know, get destroyed. We just want to give. We love the ship. That's what we do, you know. So that's the funny thing is that people treat it like it's, oh, well, it's inevitable that this stuff will happen. And it's like, no, it's not, when you have people who are saying, hey, take our money, you know. It's like, it didn't have to be that way is my only thing. The Queen Mary doesn't have to be where she is right now. And remember that video I made about how long ocean liners last, you know, is the 40-year time limit for real. And it's not, you know. As long as you put in the effort to restore something, you will make it last longer. So those lifeboats, it is amazing that they've lasted this long. You know, most ships, they have their lifeboats removed almost immediately when they're preserved. So, you know, QE2, all that, lifeboats were removed. But for Queen Mary, it didn't have to be that way. You know, she's had her lifeboats all this time. They needed restoration. The davits needed restoration. We could have helped fund the davits as well. Anything the city needs for the Queen Mary, QMI can help. We have the connections. We have the people. The only thing is we can't force the city to do anything. We can't. We can't throw money at them and say, here, we're going to help now. We can't do that. It doesn't work that way. They have to say we can do that. They have to say, yes, QMI, work with us. So I got this comment on my YouTube channel. This person was just like, oh, you guys don't do anything. You should put your money where your mouth is. And I'm like, you know, we do. We're ready. We're ready. Just the city needs to tell us, hey, this is what we need money for. The city doesn't just accept donations. That's not how it works. And we can't just give a donation without having documentation that it's going to where the money is supposed to go to. You know, because the IRS and all that needs to have proof that you're not just spending the money on something else that, you know, that you're not supposed to. So it's like there is a certain, you know, there is a certain back and forth. If the city wants us to help, we need documentation. We need a receipt that says, oh, you know, this is where the expense is going. That's normal. Every nonprofit has that. Every time they spend money, they get a receipt that shows where that money was spent. That's how they report their taxes. That's how they report their funding and their finances to the IRS. So that's normal. That's not unusual. But the city just, they don't tell us how we can help. I don't think they want us to help, to be honest. They like to tell the newspapers, oh, we can't find the funding. But then we're sitting here knocking on their door going, we have it. We're going to help if you let us. Mm. Mm. To the question about whether the boats could be purchased from scrappers after they take possession of them, it's like Steve said, no. unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. Justin says the Queen Mary should be a national monument for the merchant mains of the Allies of World War II and emphasized as such. Probably should, yeah. Yeah, Mr. Misty, I like that quote. Justin says she should be augmented, like you say, with attached elements that promote seafaring, classic mid-century entertainment, and recreate a different immersive world. Yeah, I think so too. You know, I think being a tourist attraction is a very good thing for the Queen Mary, and a museum as well. She should be preserved as best as possible and restored. The interior is restored as best as possible. Well, Wade, we would. Believe me. If I knew if there was a way we could get a lifeboat, I think we would, but we can't, you know. So, it's just one of those things. We only have so much power, so much control, so much influence. You know, the city won't let us have a lifeboat. We can't get one. So, D-Clan says, how would the Queen Mary actually get put of her breakwater when there's a dock behind her and another near the bow? You remove parts of the docks, or you can remove the sidewall. You can remove the sidewall and push her out to the side. There's ways of doing it. I mean, they got her in there, so they'd had to move Earth to make it happen, but they could move Earth again. So yesterday was the anniversary of the sinking of Lusitania, is that right? I wish I remembered that. I would have made a video or something for that. I heard that there's a group of people led by Tom Linsky who are going to recreate Lusitania for your computer. So you can explore it on your computer, kind of the same way as Titanic, Honor, and Glory. I can't wait for that, because I really want to see Lusitania. It would be so cool to have the Lusitania and Titanic, Honor, and Glory. That'll be really fun. Yeah, restoration sometimes does require recreation. The lifeboat should have never gotten to that condition anyway. It's not like it was inevitable. You know, what protects lifeboats from corrosion is having them covered with tarps. That's what these ocean liners did. They covered their lifeboats with tarps to protect them. And the Queen Marys had tarps, but the last ones were installed by Disney, and those eventually rotted away, and instead of buying new tarps to cover the lifeboats, they were all left in the open, which accelerated their destruction. They didn't have to be so badly rotten. They didn't have to be. It's just sad. It's just one bad decision after another has a rippling effect that lasts through time. And the ripples get bigger and bigger until you have whole lifeboats being tossed into the garbage can. You know? Captain D says, do you think anyone would ever build Lusitania too? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I think there would have to be something. I think there would have to be some kind of interest so profoundly big in Lusitania. It would have to be like Titanic, honestly, because people love Titanic so much that it led to talks about recreating Titanic, which, you know, Titanic 2 was canceled last year, so it's not happening. And then the theme park version of the Titanic also was canceled, so... But Lusitania is an even smaller story that really only ocean liner enthusiasts know about, to be honest. Like, you ask the average person on the street, do you know Titanic? People would say, oh yeah, I know Titanic. You say, do you know Lusitania? They'd be like, what? You know, so... Lusitania is not very well known. Yeah, Steve says, now if we can just get Tom to do Queen Mary, yeah. Either Tom Linsky or get Titanic Honor and Glory to recreate Queen Mary in VR. That'd be so great, you know, like, I would love to see that. Because even right now, I live 1,000 miles from Queen Mary. Even if I wanted to visit the ship, it would be so difficult to go down there whenever I want. So having these ocean liners on your computer that you can explore three-dimensionally is wonderful. You know, you get to see all this beautiful history and all this beautiful stuff without having to spend hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars to go visit these places. That'd be really cool. Yep. Steve is right. The lifeboats began to rot through because the water didn't drain through their bungholes. Captain D's, I don't know. Justin says, the Merchant Marines have almost nothing proper to commemorate them. And doing that for the Queen Mary can help save her. We owe our freedoms to her and the QE and others. Winston Churchill agreed. Yeah. Exactly. Very well said. That's why it's funny when Americans say, like, oh, the Queen Mary has nothing to do with America, it's a British ship. It's like, the Queen Mary is a big reason why we have these American freedoms. We like to talk about, America and, and freedom and prosperity. And, if the Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth weren't there to transport all of our American troops to help fight for our freedom, we wouldn't have won the war. We wouldn't have been where we are today. It's just amazing. It's like there's those ships were such huge contributors. Granted, a lot of other ocean liners were contributors too. Aquitania, Mauretania, they were in World War I and World War II, depending on what ships you're looking for. Aquitania was both wars. Mauretania 1 was in World War I, Mauretania 2 was in World War II. But the point is that the biggest contributor in history when it comes to ocean liners, helping the United States was Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth. So it's amazing how many people are just so quick to dismiss the ship, like, oh, it's not our ship, it's not British. No, it's not our ship, it's British. So send it back or sink it. Who cares? And it's just like, those are the people who stand there and they're like, I love America. And it's like, if you love America, you should try to learn more about the Queen Mary. Honestly. Yeah. Yeah, so. Yeah, Mike, this is the engine that I nicknamed Squeaky. It's not the official name of the engine, but I call it Squeaky. Because it's very, very squeaky. I would love to get more engines for this layout, but frankly, I just don't have the money or the room, These engines cost a lot now that they don't make them anymore. So, because I like running this engine, it's just that it's so squeaky to noise the heck out of me. So I would like to get another big engine that could haul this stuff quietly. But it's just expensive. And I don't have the room, I don't have the room. Alright, so. I can't read your username, but you commented, I heard that there was a plan to transform SS Normandy into an aircraft carrier. Could it happen the same to RMS Queen Mary, or her size wouldn't allow that? Anything's possible. If you have enough money and enough influence, you can make anything happen. But I don't think there was ever a plan to convert Queen Mary into an aircraft carrier. There were no plans for that. Matthew Mahoney says, it would be great to have a Queen Elizabeth game. Yeah, it really would. You're welcome, Justin. Mark Hooper says, well said, Justin. We owe our lives to the queens. We need to spread the word on this. How quickly people forget how we got where we are today in the free world. Oh, yeah. In my research of the history of these ships, I've stumbled across so much stuff about the world wars, and it's just like, it's amazing to think, like, what people had to fight for back then. Today we squabble about petty things like, what, lanes to put on a street, like, should we have bike lanes, or what color to paint a building, or even petty little squabbles like, oh, the Queen Mary's funnels aren't the right shade of red. And you think about, like, all the stuff people had to worry about back then, and that we're lucky to even have things like the Queen Mary still around. Like, that's amazing. We're lucky to have it still around. We should take care of it, Nothing lasts forever, but, you can make stuff last a very long time if you take care of it. And the Queen Mary, since she's came to Long Beach, has never really been taken care of. Christian Barbados says, what was the history of Sir Winston Churchill, of the Sir Winston's restaurant aboard Queen Mary? Have gone there since the 80s. We have a boat directly across from the Queen Mary at Shoreline Village. Actually, that's a pretty funny thing. So the Sir Winston's restaurant is located at the stern of Queen Mary, on the highest deck. Sir Winston's used to be the cabins for the engineering officers of the Queen Mary. So there's a funny little story that follows that. So in the olden days, like the early days of Queen Mary, people who worked in the engine rooms and stuff there weren't as many as you would see like on Titanic, because Queen Mary was entirely oil-fired. She had a lot of, you know, she also had a lot of modern technologies that helped the ship run more independently. So you had like a fraction of the workers working down below decks than you did on Titanic, for instance. But nevertheless, those workers, they lived beneath the ship, essentially. Even their cabins were beneath the ship. So there was a lot of strikes happening at the time. They were not happy with their working conditions. They almost never got to see daylight, pretty much. And so after World War II, when things changed after World War II, not only did classism start to die out, but so did the notion of people's value. And so what happened was, after the war, when they were converting the Queen Mary, or at least sometime after that, I'm not sure when, but they decided that they would add a second floor above the veranda restaurant, and that second floor became like quarters for the engineering teams. And so their little cabins, they still shared cabins and stuff, but nevertheless they now had views outside of the ocean. So they got a good thing there. And then when the ship came to Long Beach, they basically emptied all that out sometime in the 80s, I want to say. Maybe Steve can correct me. But sometime, I think in the 80s, is when they built Sir Winston's out of that area. So Sir Winston's was the cabins of the engineering teams. Roger Huffman says, "Are you familiar with the SS Titan concept? What do you think of it?" I'm not very familiar with it. I know it was supposed to be a huge ship or something, but I don't know much about it. Gabe Wilson says, "Hello, Alex. Guess what? Tiny Sailor's World got a new update last night. The HMS Hood and the Bismarck." What do those words mean? What Tiny Sailor's World got a new update last night? HMS Hood and Bismarck. What about HMS Hood and Bismarck? I was really confused by that message. Strasbourg Railfanner says, "They shouldn't have scrapped Queen Elizabeth because it could just stay in its sunken spot as a tourist attraction, but at least some of its metal remains at the bottom of the Hong Kong Bay." To my understanding, none of it remains at the bottom of the bay. The reason why is because the bay is really shallow, and that bay is the entrance to their harbor. So huge ships that need to come through need to pass right through where Queen Elizabeth was. So they couldn't leave her there, because she would have gotten in the way of their shipping. So the Japanese Navy had completely, scrapped the ship all the way down to the bed of the harbor. The harbor was really only like, I want to say, maybe 40 or 50 feet deep. Not even 50, I don't think. I think just about 40 some odd feet deep. So yeah, so they pulled that all out because if they had left anything behind, it could have scraped the bottom of the ships entering the harbor and caused those ships to sink. It was a huge hazard. Even today, you can look at where she would have sat in the harbor, and where she would have sat was right in the middle of the entrance of the harbor. Grim Tunes, I don't know what ship you're talking about. I think you're talking about Queen Mary, but no, it's not possible to make her into a cruise ship. updating maritime code isn't as simple as just like installing new light bulbs. It's a huge process. Like, I made a video all about that. It's a huge process. Just picture it this way: the Queen Mary wouldn't look like the Queen Mary if they had finished her. They would have had to completely rebuild her from the ground up to make her up to code, to make her up to safety standards, and to make her up to the standards of people who want to sail on a ship like that. And imagine she's pulling into port. You'd look at her and just be like, oh, that's just another cruise ship. Where's the Queen Mary? Like, you wouldn't even know that's the Queen Mary. The funnels wouldn't be there. Nothing would be there. Nothing that makes her look like the Queen Mary would be there. So she would just look like a modern cruise ship with some weird shapes and stuff. It's just not possible. It's really just not possible. Even going all the way down to the fact that there's just not enough views from the ship. The portholes are small compared to what people expect today, and the rooms are not properly in the right places. I don't know how to say that. Just watch my video on it, yeah. Because I feel like if I start talking about it, I'm not going to say it correctly, and then all these maritime experts are going to be like, Alex, you're not saying the right things. Yeah, I don't like when people want to turn ocean liners into cruise ships either, because it doesn't work that way, and it would just turn out not to be a good idea. What makes ocean liners so amazing is that they're not cruise ships. They're these unique things with so much class and elegance and, I don't know the words, uniqueness. You know what I'm saying? Like something just so unique and beautiful. And if you just turn them into another cruise ship, they won't be unique and beautiful. So, if you want to see a good example of an ocean liner that does cruising duty, it looks the way it needs to look, it's shaped the way it needs to be shaped, look no further than Queen Mary 2, the ocean liner. So, sometimes people ask me, Alex, what would a modern ocean liner look like today? Look at Queen Mary 2. That is the exact definition of a modern ocean liner. So, if you wanted to refurbish the original Queen Mary to make her sail again, to make her carry passengers as a cruise ship or as an ocean liner, either way, what she'd end up looking like is the Queen Mary 2. And we already have one. So, all right. Justin says, I love your tea time. The Queen Mary organization needs to lobby Congress and UNESCO alongside the city. Yeah. Chris Butler says, Alex, does QMI have an on-site person who can attend Long Beach City Council meetings? Yeah, there's a few people who live nearby Long Beach, and there's a few people who, even though they don't live nearby, they can drive there. The only thing is that it's not necessary to attend every city council meeting, only because they don't talk about the Queen Mary every single time, and you can't just go there and bring it up. Like, you can only, when you go to city council meetings to discuss things with the city, you can only talk about stuff that's on their agenda for that day. So it's not necessary to go to every city council meeting. We only attend the ones that are about the Queen Mary. So, yeah, the last one that was put out about the Queen Mary, which was sometime last year, I want to say summer of last year, Stephen Ablonsi was there. Yeah, Grimtunes. I know what you're saying, like, keep her like she is, but what I'm trying to say is you can't keep her like she is. It's really not possible. Due to the fact that I mean, like I said, this is kind of out of my scope, but if you will work with me here, what I'm trying to say is, like, the Queen Mary is not built the way she can safely operate today. So you can't keep her the same. Especially not with all that wood. All that wood. You can't keep all that wood on the ship. And all the asbestos, too. The ship is full of asbestos. Asbestos is fine if you don't disturb it. It's perfectly safe to be around if you don't disturb asbestos. But renovating the ship to even just fix up the bathrooms and things, you're going to disturb all that asbestos. You will create issues. And maritime code will just wreak havoc on the Queen Mary. So it's not my expertise to speak about the extent of what needs to be done on the Queen Mary. I've done my best to describe it in my video. But it's not possible to keep her looking the same way that she used to. So, yeah. Mark says, I remember back in 1987 there was some kind of buffet restaurant on the upper decks. It is not there anymore. It was like a shopping mall food court. Not very classy. Ooh. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah. There was like a quick service restaurant up on the sun deck somewhere. And the last thing it was before it permanently closed was the Hollywood Deli. It was like a pizza place. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. It was like a food court kind of thing, kind of nasty. Yeah, Blue Ribbon says, well, Steve says, the area was gutted. He's talking about the upper floors where Sir Winston's is. The area was gutted and large windows installed during the conversion, but the restaurant opened in the mid-70s as Winston Churchill's, then later changed to Sir Winston's. Blue Ribbon Productions says, Mark, the Veranda Grill became a hamburger and sandwich place in 1973, lasted until 1997. Oh, but you know what, Steve? I know something else about the Veranda. Not only was it a hamburger place, but they also served fish and chips, which people tell me were not authentic. Mr. Misty says, I heard that the remnants of the Queen Elizabeth were buried under the man-made Hong Kong International Airport. No, the Hong Kong International Airport is in a completely different area, but even then, they didn't bury it there. They scrapped it. They sold it for metal. Matthew says, what artifacts exist of Queen Elizabeth? Oh, a lot. But just to put it basically, furniture. At the moment, there's still lifeboats until they get thrown away. But there's furniture, there's dishware. I have some dishware here. Like, I think this teapot back here is from Queen Elizabeth. Things like that, yeah. So, yeah, there's still a lot of that stuff that exists. There's even stuff still on the Queen Mary that belonged on Queen Elizabeth. Perhaps Steve could talk more about that, but we'll talk about that like on like an episode or something. I don't want to flood Steve with things to talk about, you know. Carl says, do the ocean liners that was serving on the northern route going to Quebec built better than the one going to New York? Empress of Britain in 1905 struck an iceberg, sunk many ships, heard she was almost a tank. Generally speaking, ships are built for their purpose, but certain ships are built to to do a lot more than just what they do. What am I trying to say? I'm a little bit kerbobulated. Ships like Queen Mary were built to technically be able to sail anywhere in the world. Maybe not comfortably, depending on where that is. If it's a hot region, Queen Mary was not built for the heat. But she was strong enough to sail pretty much anywhere. So there are ships that are built to those kinds of standards, and then there's other ships that just aren't built to those kinds of standards. But really, generally speaking, any ocean liner is built approximately to the same conditions. That way, they could be sailed anywhere in the world. Because you never really know. Like, when you build a ship, you think you're going to operate it in one space, but then maybe something changes and you need to move it to somewhere else and have it operate there. Like, that happened with the Holland America line a lot back when they operated ocean liners. They would operate liners from like one route, and then all of a sudden they'd be like, you know what, we need to do a completely different route. And then they would change it up. So you couldn't afford to build ocean liners only for one specific purpose. Sometimes they just had to be built to a generalized, strong standard so they could go anywhere in the world if you needed them to. Tyler says, what about France becoming Norway? I don't know. I actually don't know much about it. I don't know much about it, so I couldn't comment on that confidently. Where is... Sorry, I was trying to read comments to catch up where I was, and some of them were confusing me. Oh, Steve says he never tried the fish and chips there. Empress of Waterloo says, on the Queen Mary, you said there's some wood types that are extinct now. Do you know what kinds of wood those are? I would have to have like a list of woods in front of me. I think one of the woods on Queen Mary was Circassian walnut, which no longer exists. I don't know. And then some were really, really, really rare. Like there's a type of maple burr, and it grows in a certain like ocean wavy pattern. Not quilted maple. It's a burr, but it grows in so rare that it grows in that pattern. And that's one of those ones where it might as well be extinct because it's just so rare. Stuff like that, but I'd have to have the list of the woods in front of me. I don't have that. Chris Butler says the next council meeting is May 10th. Apart from requesting to be placed on the agenda, there are 3 minutes granted to each member of the public to speak at the end of the meeting. Yeah, I don't know how that works. I'd have to... Well, the thing is, Chris, about QMI is we already went through the process. The city said, look, if anybody wants a boat, this is how you do it. We followed that. We did it to the T. We did everything they wanted. They said no. So they won't care if we go there and say, hey, we want a boat. They won't care. That's the thing, even if you say we have money, they're just going to say, well, we don't want your money. That's just how it happens, you know. Like Steve just said, Chris, I can speak from experience. Attending and speaking at council meetings is a waste of time. It really is. I've seen it. I've seen Steve speak at the council meetings. It hasn't helped anything. Frankly, the city council members, I don't think that they even pay attention to anybody who speaks, honestly, because they don't comment back. I don't think they can, but nevertheless, they don't comment back. They don't keep anything in their agendas. They don't learn anything new. It's a waste of time. What we need is public. If you guys really want to know what will help the Queen Mary right now, what will help us help the Queen Mary right now even, is public support. We've tried for 10 years. I'm speaking on behalf of QMI because I wasn't with them all this time, but on the better part of 10 years, QMI has been fighting really hard to negotiate with the city for various things to help the ship. They never, ever follow through with anything. They don't. And I'm not going to comment on what it is. Frankly, I don't know for sure what is the problem here, but the thing is that it's like I've tried to tell the people at QMI, what we need now is public support, because if we can't get through to the city, which we've tried for 10 years, we can't get through to the city, we need the people to speak up. It doesn't have to be for us. It just has to be for the ship. You know, like, if nobody wants us to help the Queen Mary, fine. Nobody wants us to help the Queen Mary, fine. But let's hear people say something. At least help the ship. Because in the end, all of us at QMI, all we care about is the ship. We want to be able to go there one day and see it being a well taken care of, happy place where everybody's having fun, everybody's learning stuff, everybody's experiencing the Queen Mary. That's really all we want. And so, so we need the public now to step up and say, hey, take care of Queen Mary. Do it right, On my channel, I've tried to mention all the things because, yeah, it's good that the city is doing some repair work on the ship right now. That is good. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem comes with how it's being done, because it's being done in a shady way. There's something going on with the ship where the artifacts are not being accounted for. People are taking things off the ship, and we don't know where they're going. We can only assume that a lot of it's being sold off for personal gain, not for the ship's gain. Things like that. The ship has been managed by companies that are not held accountable for what they do. Money has been spent on the ship that doesn't actually go to the ship. Like the biggest thing I can mention is, the city gave Urban Commons $25 million for the restoration of the ship. Not any of that money went onto the ship. And the city didn't bother to ask. They didn't bother to say, hey, where did our $25 million go? They didn't ask. You have to wonder why. You have to wonder why. So that's really all we want. Like, it's great that they're repairing the ship, but we want to make sure that history won't repeat itself. We want to make sure that the ship will be in good hands. So we need the public to speak up, because we've been trying as a small group to do it. We continue to try, but we need help. We need the public to speak up on behalf of the ship. So, yeah. Let's see. Grimtune says, why don't you guys try to raise money to buy her? Because she's not for sale. That's why. You can't buy something that isn't for sale. The city would never, would never let anybody purchase the Queen Mary. you'd have to offer billions and billions to make the city say, okay, you know, we can't raise that much. We can't raise billions. But even then, the city would have to agree to it. The city would have to agree to letting us buy it, and they won't do that. The other thing too is that QMI, we're not designed to run the Queen Mary. It would be a conflict of interest if we raised money so we could own the ship. That would be a dishonest thing. So we can't do that either for that reason. So we can't buy the Queen Mary. First of all, it's not financially feasible for us. We can raise lots of money over the course of years to help the ship, but we can't buy it, and nor do we want to, nor do we have the ability to run it. You know, it's just not possible. So yeah. We always offer that we can help the city take care of the ship. We can, if they need something, we will do our very best to help them. We will not say no. We will not say no. Looks like Steve and Chris both know each other. How weird. Like, I have friends that I met, you know, years ago. They are Steve and Chris. And now I have new friends. I have Steve, and Chris is getting to get to know him. This other Chris Butler. It's funny. If both of them become my friends, so I'll have a Steve and Chris, and then I'll have a Steve and Chris. It's funny. Hello, helicopter sauce. This is the loudest locomotive. So, a video that I've been working on is my top 10 favorite ocean liners. So on Tuesday, that will be published. It's already almost finished. I just need to add some music and do some editing with the sound and everything. They'll be published on Tuesday, and then I'm going to try to get my Oceanic video out on Friday. I have run into a problem with the Oceanic video. I don't have enough images of Oceanic to make a video out of it. That's a problem I didn't realize until after I finished writing the script. Yeah, so I have to figure out what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can draw 1 or 2 pictures of the ship, but that can only get you so far. You can't make a video where you show a single picture for several minutes at a time. That's not fun. So, yeah, so I am kind of at a crossroads there. I don't have enough images of Oceanic to make a video about it. Or footage either. So if I don't have the Oceanic video out on Friday, that's probably why I don't have enough images to make a video. So it's funny because there's other YouTubers, they have all these talents. Like, they know how to create like CGI images. So some of them create CGI images of the ships. And I can't do that. Dangerous Brian says, how often do you have the train running, or do you only have it running in the background when filming in the current room you're in? I technically only run this train, or this whole layout. I only run it when I'm doing tea times, which is twice a week. But that's not why it's squeaking, just so you know. It squeaked from the minute I bought that engine. And it was almost new when I bought it. Almost new. The reason why it squeaks is because the back wheels, the trailing wheels that support the back end of the locomotive, those are electric pickup wheels, and they have this axle that comes out from the wheel, and then the bearing that holds onto it is like a circular bearing that fits over it. And so it needs to have constant contact as the axle rotates so it can pick up electricity from the track. And the thing is that's what's squeaking, is those little wheels and the axles rubbing against the bearing are what's squeaking. If I try to oil it, it may not get good electrical contact anymore. Now, someone did tell me I could use like an electric conductive lubricant for that kind of thing. But I'm also worried that if I apply that, what if I can't get it back off again? Because I have a habit of when I try to repair things like as small as a locomotive, I end up breaking them. So I am worried that if I try to use that special like electrically conductive lubricant, it might, what if it does something that I don't like and I need to remove all that, and I might break the engine just trying to remove it. So it is one of those things where like I'm kind of stuck with a squeaky engine, I feel. Yeah. But yeah, I only run this engine during tea times, and then occasionally I swap it out. I don't run it at full speed, as you can see. I don't want to put undue stress on the engine. And it's only hauling about half the weight that it can normally haul, so it's not being overworked or anything. Alright, see you later, Steve. Mike says, is there many images of Oceanic? No. I mean, I've looked. Sometimes the images are, like, really small. Like, they would only work, like... sometimes, like, some of the images are, like, so small that really, like, they would only fit on the screen of one of those iPod Classics. So, they're so tiny that if you blew them up to the size that I make videos, it would just look like someone spilled ink on a piece of paper. It would just look blotchy and weird. Grimtune says, if they get so much government funding, then why do they not say okay? Well, right there's a problem, Grim. They don't get government funding for the Queen Mary. A lot of people say that they do, but they really don't. They don't get government funding from the Queen Mary. The Queen Mary is not listed under the federal government's list of historic monuments. So the only time the government can fund something like the Queen Mary is if it's listed as a historic monument. Queen Mary is not listed as a historic monument. She's listed as a historic landmark. Historic landmarks don't get funding from the government. So yeah, there's no government fund. I just want to make that clear for anybody who's wondering. Queen Mary does not get government funding. So she entirely has to be self-funded. So that's one of the problems. The city is thinking about making the Queen Mary a national monument status. That would be a good thing, actually, because if the Queen Mary becomes a national monument, yes, the United States government would have to take care of the Queen Mary. But on the other hand, the corruption that the Queen Mary faces, you know, people just walking off with her artifacts and selling them for profit, can't happen if it's a national monument, because that would become a federal offense. And of course, any national monument is actually really well taken care of by that department. They are really good at taking care of monuments. So the Queen Mary would be a lot better off if she were a national monument. But the problem is it would be really hard to convince the public that that's okay, because the way people see it is, I don't want to spend my tax money on that money pit. That's what they'll think of it. You'd have to convince them why the ship is worthy of being a national monument. I think the ship is worthy to be a national monument, you know, but you have to convince everyone else. So, Carl says can't see why they had to remove the funnel. Of what ship? Mike says you should check on Instagram. There's lots of people with lots of images. Yeah, I know. I've been looking. I can't find anything. I'm just, you know, I've tried. I'm still looking. I haven't given up. It's just I can't find anything yet. You know, if anybody wants to help me, find a lot of images of Oceanic, I would be so happy. Because I've found a lot. I've found maybe 20. Maybe 20, but 20 is not enough to make a video. I need at least 50 images of Oceanic to make a video. Yeah. A lot of images. I can probably make do with 30, but a lot of these images I get are copies of the same images I already have. So, Crittenden says, do you think Queen Elizabeth would have been just as successful as Queen Mary? I mean, the Queen Mary isn't really technically financially successful, you know, technically speaking. So I don't know. It would be really hard to say. I mean, I missed your first question, Carl. Oh, okay. The funnels on the Queen Mary are replicas. Are they built exactly the same? Could they work as a real funnel? And why they were replaced, I can't remember. So the Queen Mary, when she came into Long Beach, they had plans to build a museum in her boiler rooms. And they needed to remove the boilers and a lot of the engineering spaces down there to make room for this massive museum they wanted. They didn't have to remove the boilers. It was not a necessity for them to do that. They only removed it because they thought they were going to build a big museum. So to remove the boilers, they had to pull them up out through the funnel shafts. And in order to do that, they had to remove the funnels, because funnels aren't just big empty cylinders. They often have like huge pipes in them to vent each boiler, and there's like structure and stuff inside, so you can't pull up huge boilers and giant pieces of machinery out of those funnels just like that. You had to remove it. So they removed the funnels and removed all the pipe work all the way down through the entire funnel shaft through the ship to make a big opening. And that's how they did it. So they pulled out all the engineering components through the funnel shafts and through the cargo shafts of the ship, and also through the skylight shafts. So there was a skylight shaft for the forward engine room that they removed as well. Skylight shaft for the aft engine room that they removed. So they removed that through those skylight shafts as well. And that's why they did it. Now, when they removed the funnels just were not in good shape. They were quite old, very, very used. Some people say there's a story that someone was able to poke a finger through Queen Mary's funnel. That's not that story. That's Aquitania. That story is from Aquitania. Queen Mary's funnels weren't that bad off. It's just that funnels are kind of weird. They funnels like the ones on Queen Mary required the funnel stay ropes to keep them their shape. Without the funnel stay ropes, they're more susceptible to collapsing. So that's what happened. When they lifted the funnel parts off, they just collapsed because there was nothing to hold their shape. So that's what happened. They couldn't reuse the funnels, so they scrapped them. They decided that once they removed everything, they were going to make replica funnels. The replica funnels are not designed 100% like the originals. They're probably closer to 90% of the originals, with the rest of the 10% being a different look. That 10% being that the funnels are a few feet shorter than they originally were. I think that was to help mitigate the top heaviness of the ship as they ballasted it, because the ship was known for being a roller. The wind can add to that. So decreasing the funnels a little bit brings down the center of gravity a little bit, brings down the amount of material that is being pushed on by wind, all that sort of stuff. So it just they lowered it, I think, by 7 feet. Each funnel, I think, is 7 feet shorter than they used to be. And so they did that. The funnels are also not riveted. The original funnels were riveted steel. These new funnels are welded, so you don't see rivets on them today. They're very flat. Also, the funnels today are made of aluminum. So the original funnels are made of steel. These are made of aluminum, so they're much lighter. They cannot function as funnels in real life because they're not built that way. First of all, they're aluminum, and real funnels need to be steel because the heat coming out of the boilers would melt an aluminum funnel. It's that hot. So that's the number one reason why you couldn't use these fake funnels for boiler gases. But the other reason too is because, remember how I said that inside a funnel are all these tubes and plumbing and pipe work to exhaust stuff? There's like an actual structure inside. Well, these funnels that the replicas that they built are hollow inside, but they have a skeleton that is all connected to a central pillar. So it's a skeleton on the inside. It helps retain the shape of the funnel. So it's not even designed to allow exhaust to come out. So, yeah, that's why. Just checking the time. Yeah. Yeah, I've been looking. Believe me, you guys, I've been looking for Olympic pictures. Like I said, I have like maybe 10, maybe 20. I doubt 20 actually, come to think of it. I probably have closer to 12 pictures. I have that I've gotten those pictures from those websites. But I've reached the limit of what I can find. So if you guys have those pictures, I need them as soon as possible because pretty soon I'll start the process of putting together the video, and I'll need those photos to do that. So, Grimtunes says, is she not owned by the city? Queen Mary? The Queen Mary is owned by the city, but she is not federally funded. She is not even funded by city taxpayer money. She's actually funded by her own thing. Her own money that she generates goes into herself. The fees that are incurred from the Carnival Cruise Terminal go towards the Queen Mary, and then of course the Catalina Express is also sitting on the land that the Queen Mary is part of, so that they pay rent for that. And then whenever you purchase a parking pass to park next to the Queen Mary, that money goes directly into the Queen Mary as well. So that's how she funds herself. She isn't funded federally. She's not funded by taxpayer money. She is just funded by that kind of stuff. Yeah. Chris says, gotta step away. I'd like to hear from QMI. I have questions. Send your questions in an email to QMI. Or send them to me and I'll give them to QMI. Let's see. Carl says, thanks, that top quality answer. You're welcome. Tyler says, I can just Google oceanic. Yeah, that's what I did. I Googled oceanic. But it's like I said, I have 12 pictures. Those are the 12 pictures of oceanic that I was able to pull off of Google. and pull off of those websites. But I've reached the limit of what I can find. So, you know, normally with most ships, I can find like dozens upon dozens upon dozens of pictures. But Oceanic is one of those things where a good quality picture, one that isn't this tiny, I found only 12. Just 12. I don't have much. And some of those pictures I actually pulled from my book about Oceanic. So I have some pictures in my book. But funny enough, there isn't much in the book about Oceanic. Let's see. Crittenden, yeah, send them to my email if you have pictures of Oceanic. I don't need Olympic because I won't be making videos about Olympic, but I could use any you have about Oceanic. So, and this is Oceanic 1899, just so you guys know, Oceanic 1899. Mike, I think for Oceanic 1899, its sister ship was the Celtic, not the Adriatic or the Baltic. Or was it something else? I don't know. I need images. That's all I'm saying. All right, folks. So, wow, we have 50 viewers. Wow. I'm going to finish this up real quick. We're reaching our 2-hour point. So let's see. What is happening this week? Tuesday is my top 10 favorite ocean liners video. I think you guys will be really surprised by that, because I've watched a lot of people's top 10 videos for their favorite ocean liners. There's about half of them are usually all the same liners. Everybody always says, oh, I love this one and this one and this one. And it's always like the same ships, essentially, just in a different order. Mine aren't like that. Mine is a very different list than what most people have. So I think you'll actually like it. It'll be different. And so that video is about, like, in that video I tell a brief history of each of those ships. So that's the cool thing. So some people, when they do top 10 videos, they just go, oh, I like it because of this and because of that. I just tell the history of it. So it is kind of, in a way, a mini history video, because I tell the history of all 10 of those ships in a certain way. So there's that. Crittenden, my email is in the description of the video. You can also find it on my About page of this channel. Oh, so Oceanic of 1899 didn't have a sister ship? Oh, wow. That's probably why I couldn't find one. I was looking for a sister ship picture, and I couldn't find one. Let's see. Well, Mike, Oceanic from 1899 is Oceanic 2. There was an Oceanic from 1880 something, I think. It was one with like sails and stuff like that. That was the first Oceanic. The second Oceanic was Oceanic 1899, which Mr. Misty says that it didn't have a sister ship, which is why I couldn't find it. And Oceanic 1899 is the one I'm looking for. So that's Oceanic 2. The third Oceanic is... They didn't build it, did they? The third Oceanic was the one they never built, right? That was the one that was supposed to be a competitor to Queen Mary, but they never built it. I think that's what it was. Tyler says 1871 was the first Oceanic. That makes sense. Yeah. So, yeah. But I'm doing Oceanic 1899 because that's, you know, I love that ship. I just don't have enough pictures of it, so. I have a book about oceanic, but whatever pictures they have are like really tiny. And if I try to take a picture of it with my camera, it would just look weird if I tried to blow up the picture. And even then, they're not very good pictures. They're pictures of very specific areas of the ship, but I want a lot more pictures of the outside, a lot more pictures of the inside, and just grand views of the rooms. I have some of them. I just don't have enough, so. RMMC Oceanic 3. Yeah, Oceanic 3. Or RMMV, yeah. RMMV was Oceanic 3. And they never built that one, I don't think, right? That's the one that they had to turn it into two smaller ships, the Britannic and the Georgic. Yeah. As a lot of you can tell, I'm not 100% fully versed on ships. I'm still learning. It takes a while to learn this kind of stuff, so. But, you know, I'm trying. I'm doing my best. Yeah, the Oceanic from the Big Four was the first Oceanic. Oh, yeah. The Empress of Britain. Beautiful ship. Beautiful ship. What was I saying about? I don't know. But tonight, I think there's a possibility tonight I might do another live stream with my friends. So you'll probably see that on this channel. This channel, just for those of you who are already subscribed to my second channel. So this channel, I might do a live stream showing me and my friends playing this game called Enlisted. It's a free game. It's a World War II game. So it is kind of in line with the historic stuff of my channel. But I don't know. I mean, should I? I mean, it is kind of a bloody game. Maybe I should save that for the other channel. But the Railroads Online video, or game, if I do play that tonight, I'll do that on this channel. And then I think Wednesday they update Railroads Online to have all new stuff. So, so I think when that happens, we'll play it then as well. Now everybody's talking about the big four ships. They can't decide which were the big four. This was the last of my batch of Scottish shortbread. I'm gonna have to make another batch. I'm not complaining. I love Scottish shortbread. It's funny because so whenever I make Scottish shortbread, I make enough to give to my sister. And so sometimes I'll drop by her office to deliver them. And last time I did that, one of her employees was like, "Oh wow, you're dropping off more," and so my sister was like, "Oh yeah, I have one," and so she gave it to her. I remember she picked it up and she's like, "Ooh, butter sticks." That's essentially what they are. They're sticks of butter. It's just they're really good. That's why I only have 2 at a time, and I only have the 2 every time I have a tea time, which is twice a week. So because they're just sugar and butter is essentially what they are. It's crazy. Little Gamer says you should do a gaming stream once a month. I could do that. That'd be kind of cool. Tyler says the big 4 were Celtic, Cedric, Baltic, and Adriatic. Alright, so. Little Gamer says, do you like horror games? No. I don't generally play games. In fact, the only games I play are just these few historic games. And the reason why is because, for one thing, like I said, I don't like games. But another thing, too, is that I don't really have time for games a lot of times. I'm usually just very, very busy. Like, I spend all my time working on this channel. So, day and night, it's all about this channel. I make stuff day and night. So I usually don't have time for games. But these few games that I do play, you know, the Titanic Honor and Glory, the Railroads Online, Enlisted, and then pretty soon will be the Lusitania game. So that's 4 games. That's really it. That's all that makes me happy, honestly. I do have a... I have an Oculus Quest 2, and I play like Beat Saber for exercise, so I exercise playing Beat Saber and stuff, and there's a few other games on that, but I don't even really use it other than that because I just don't have time for games, essentially. As Karthik says, why don't you make your own imaginary ships and story? That would be cool. It's not me. I just don't do that stuff. I don't have the imagination for that. So. Alrighty, folks. Well, this live stream is now 2 hours in duration. So I'm going to go ahead and end it right here. The next tea time will be on Wednesday at 4 p.m. Pacific time. Again, keep an eye out for my top 10 ocean liners video on Tuesday as well. And then Friday will be some kind of video. I'm hoping to have the Oceanic video finished. I need those pictures of Oceanic from 1899 in order to do it. So, yeah, and then after the Oceanic video, I'll see about getting to work on my Spruce Goose video. So... yeah, at least I have footage of the Spruce Goose. That will help a lot. A lot. But anyway, thank you all so much, you guys, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.